Hey, welcome back to Black Lab Garage. Well, you see we're not outside right now. We are actually down in the basement. And why? Well, let me show you. I'm going to show you how to fix these 460 heads. The fuel injected 460 heads, I should say. Are you ready? Come on, let's get into it. Now, if you're wondering, well, why am I down in the basement? Well, that's because it is a balmy 7 degrees outside. 7. So, in order to keep going forward with this build and show you how to fix these heads, we're just going to do it down here. Now, you may hear my heat pump kick off and on every once in a while, and that's just part of it. You know, if that bothers you, well, you know, the Eagles wrote a song about that. Let's see, what was that song? Oh yeah, it's called Get Over It. You ready? Let's go. Alright, first thing, I know this is a driver's side head, but I'm just going to take a little white paint and put an X on it. That way I know which end goes towards the front of the motor. We done that, and now that we know this is the driver's side, let's put a number 5 on the valve. Because we do want to put the valves back in the same spot that they come out of. I mean, this is just temporary here. And 8. And no, I don't speak Spanish or any other foreignese language. But I remember Ocho because of Herbie, the love bug. Everybody remembers Merritt LaVoy called him Ocho because 5 and 3 was 8. Alright, well, we got the head up here. Take a hammer and tap on the side of every valve spring retainer. Alright, now take our valve spring compressor. This thing is old, but it works. This valve spring compressor was what Abraham Lincoln originally used to press the springs on his carriage. Hang on to the retainer. Set the spring over here because we're definitely not going to reuse the spring. Oh, come on. That's one thing I hate about wearing gloves. I can't grab a hold of stuff very easily. Alright, I'm going to finish this up and I'll check back in with you here in a minute. Alright, go down through here and pop these valve stem seals off and toss them in the trash because we're not going to reuse them. Well, that one's on there good. There we go. Of course, she's working on an old model 460 head. You wouldn't have to worry about this because chances are there's no valve stem seals left on them. That was one of their problems. Not just the 460s, but all motors back in. The valve stem seals getting hard and crumbling away to nothing. Which will then stop up the oil returns in the heads and the oil galleys, and then your engine smoke like roadkill. I had a Bronco like that one time. It stopped the oil returns up. I mean, not just here in the head, but actually down in the block too. And it run great. But you had to keep outrunning this cloud of smoke. Every time you come to a stoplight, this big cloud of smoke would go past you. And then you'd about suffocate. Okay, got that, so let's go ahead and pull the valves out of it. Now sometimes when you go to pull your valves out, if they don't want to pull through easily, you might have to take a piece of emery cloth or a piece of sandpaper. Especially on old model heads, but you shouldn't run into this on newer model fuel injected heads. But the old model heads, the actual tip of the valve will get mushroomed out from the rocker arm, and you could not pull them things back through, down through the valve guide and back out of the head. Now here's where I want you to really listen to me seriously. Ford totally redesigned these EFI heads, and they work on velocity. They are not like the old model heads that just had gigantic ports that didn't flow well. These work on velocity, so don't go in there and think that you can do better than Ford and start hogging these ports out. You'll ruin them. And I mean, they'll run worse than they would if you had left them alone. I'm serious. Listen to me on this. All I'm going to do is just touch up some of the casting flaws, just hit the short turn radius a little bit, and just around the valve stem or around the valve guide, and that's it. I'm not making the ports bigger. Okay, let me show you what I'm talking about. Now when doing this, be very careful and do not get into the valve seat, or you'll be going to get a valve job like having the seat cut, or if you got into it real bad, you'd have to get a new seat pressed in. Okay, just about all the heads I've ever seen have that, see that round casting patch right there? You know, it's in all the ports. I want to knock that out of it. That's the first thing I'm going to do, but I am not making these any bigger. Now then, you can't see me, but I have safety glasses on. Please wear safety glasses. Now see there? That's all I did. Now I'm going to move on to the next one. You can see that right there is really pronounced. And it sticks way up there. And there you go. It's ground out of all of them. That's the one that was really stuck up there. I'll take a sanding roll to them here after we get through with around the valve guide and stuff. Now, on this one here and this one here, there is a little bulge where the push rod sticks out. You can hit it just a little bit, but just hit it very little, because you don't want to grind through to your push rod hole. So just knock it down just a little bit, but that's it. Now look there, no more than we did on these heads. That's how much has been ground out of it. Just doing that one spot in each port. Now looking down into the bowl area, you can see a sharp line right here and right here. You can see around the valve guide. You know, we're going to knock those down and smooth them out. And then the short turn, you know, just going to smooth it out a little bit. But that's basically all we're going to do here. Now you can see here what we've done. I just went around the valve guide, making it a little bit smaller, and then got rid of that big sharp line right there, and then I hit the short turn radius a little bit just to make it a little more rounded, and that's all we're doing. Now we move on to the next one. Alright, got all them taken care of. Like I said, we'll go back with the sand and roll after I get all the work with the carbide burr done. Then I'll go back and smooth it all out with sand and roll. Now I want to add right here, when I said, you know, don't think that you can outdo Ford. Well, I mean, technically you can, yes, but you're going to need a flow bench and all that stuff. I don't have a flow bench. Probably most of you at home don't have a flow bench. So without a flow bench, can you outdo Ford? No. Can you make things worse? Absolutely. Will you know it? No. So that's why I said don't go in there hogging the ports and stuff out, because you can make it worse. So just do what I'm showing you here and you'll be safe. Now I'm working on the exhaust side, and you can see the stock as cast port right there. And you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just doing the same thing we did on the intake. Just taking the valve guide down, getting rid of any sharp ridges in the bowl. And I'll tell you right now, this seat area right here, these seats on these things are freaking hard. But I did cut it back some. So now, go on to the next one. Now then, you can see in the exhaust port, see we've done the valve guide and stuff, but look here, that same round spot that's in the intake ports is in the exhaust. So let's go ahead and grind it down too. Now then, I'm just giving you a look what they look like after the sanding rolls. You know, I've done the rest of them. And then we go up top. So now let's go on to the valves. Now I am going to touch these seats up while I'm at it. And how do I do that? Well, number one, I've got a pilot that fits down in the valve guide. And see, I got this stuff on eBay years ago. This is an old Black & Decker valve seat grinding stone. I got a whole assortment of them with these. The only thing it's missing is the actual electric drive unit. And the drive unit is what's so freaking expensive for these things. It's not, the stones ain't bad. That piece isn't bad. It's just the drive unit that's so expensive. Because I think I got like 20 stones, 3 of these, and all different size pilots and stuff for like 80 bucks. But those drive units most of the time are like $200 and $300. Well, you don't need a drive unit. Put your pilot in. Set that on there. Take your electric drill. Although the drill's not as fast as the drive unit, but just put you a bolt in it. Now, take that out there. Get the pilot out of the way. And look there. We've refaced the seat. Now here's a good example on the exhaust. You can see how dark it is and stuff right there. Now, put your pilot in. Put it all the way in. Make sure there's no wiggle. Put your stone on. Then your drill with the bolt. There you go. World of difference. Now that we've got the seats freshened up, it's time to do something with the valves. Now I don't know if you can see it or not. Hopefully it'll show up. If it'll focus. You see I I'll try to point out with my pinky. See that kind of raised up lip right there at the bottom of the valve? You kind of see it there. I always like to knock that off to help the low lift flow a little bit better. So what we've got here, this is an old Zim valve refacer. you can use it to either, it's made for cutting a new face on the valve. You can see over here it's got settings where you can set it to 30 degrees or 45 degrees. I've got it set on 30 degrees to cut that lip off of there. Now they come with a hand crank. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use a drill. So let me hook the drill up. Now I got the drill hooked up, and you just and tighten this little thumb screw up a little bit, because that pushes the valve up against the blade there. Now you can see it real good on the exhaust valves where I back cut it. There, it zooms in. See there? And like I said, you do not have to do that. I mean, ideally, you know, it's always going to be better if you take your heads to a machine shop and have a multi-angle valve job done, you know, at least a 2-angle or something like that, which I can do because I have the stones here to do it, but it would take a long time. And I probably won't on these. If it was a more high performance motor, yeah, I definitely would, but on these, since this truck's going to be used for pulling stuff, I probably won't. I'm just trying to help. I'm just helping the flow out. That's all. Only reason why I did what I did to the heads as far as the ports and on the valves. We're not going after every little horsepower like we would on a high performance motor. We're just giving it some help, making it more efficient, but I still want it to last a long time. Once again, I'm trying to do this one-handed. Hold the phone with my other hand. But we're going to put some valve grinding compound around the face of it. And then we're going to take a little assembly lube or oil, you can use either one, and put on the stem. Now if we got the valve grinding compound put on, just push the valve back home, and then we'll come around to this side and hook a drill up to it and start spinning it. And I like to spin it and then let up ever so often. And then after I go clockwise so many times, I'll actually reverse it. Then pull your valve back out and clean the compound off of it and stuff. If I can get the phone to focus here. And you should see a nice even gray band around the valve right there. And you can see a little shiny right here, but that's where we back cut it. So, but there should be an even gray band around it, the face of it. Then you should also see an even gray band on the seat right there. And we're good. Alright, now we got the valves lapped in. Take it all back apart. Clean everything really good. Wash everything again, because you don't want to leave any valve grinding compound on there whatsoever. So now we got to do the valve stem seals. You got two different kinds here. You can use the old standard umbrella seal, or newer 460s came with this style that actually slips down over the valve guide, and then that band helps hold it in place. Your black one is for the intake side, and your brown one is for the exhaust side. Alright, now your valve stem seals will come with a little straw looking thing like this. Slip it down over the end of the valve. Of course, this first one being an exhaust valve, it'll get a brown one. So just slip it right down over. And then I just use an old piece of PVC pipe and tap it into place, or you can use a hammer. Just tap it on into place and then go on to the intake. Same thing. And then tap it on down and pull your straw out, and then do the rest of them. Let me stick the rest of these on there, and then we'll be ready to put the valve springs and retainers and keepers on. Okay, let's talk about the valve springs. I am going to do a valve spring upgrade on this thing. Your stock springs is just a single spring, nothing fancy. Most of them are rated around 70 pounds or so. Of course, they're used now, so they're not going to have 70 pounds. What we're going to put on it is this right here. It's still a single spring, because a lot of people see that damper spring in there and think it's a dual spring. No, it's just a damper spring. It's still a single spring. These will put about, of course, depends on the spring, but these right here between 80 and 85 pounds of seat pressure. And these are mainly, you find these listed for 351 Cleveland 4 barrels and Ford 390s. But they work just fine. The only thing that you'll notice difference-wise is on the retainers. To me, this is your original 460 valve spring retainer. To me, it fits a little loose in the springs that we're going to use. So I have some retainers here. These actually were on a set of small block Ford springs. You can see they don't have near as much play in them. Which means it's okay to have some play, you just don't want a lot of play. But these actually fit in there tighter than these, the originals. So these will work just fine. And I also use hardened locks. These I actually got at my local O'Reilly's. They're just sealed power, but they are hardened locks. Because you can see they've got like a pinkish color to them. Now, if you're buying the springs and retainers as a set, you don't have to worry about it. But I will tell you what these retainers that I'm using measure, just so you'll know. Right here on the first step, well, I guess you call it the first step, 1.01 inches. And overall width is 1.373. So if you're shopping for retainers, that'll give you an idea of what you need. So now let's get these babies put on. Alright. Bring the spring on there. Put the retainer on there. Get our older than Methuselah valve spring compressor out. And grab two keepers. Now right here is something I'm picky about. Others say it don't make any difference because I've seen people turn them in this way. I always turn them this way. The reason being, when the oil comes off the rocker arm, it runs down. Well, if you look right here, it can't just run straight down on the valve stem. It has to run to either side of the valve stem, whereas if I had them turned this way, it could run straight down on the valve stem. Call me picky, but that's just the way I like to do it. I don't know if that actually is a thing, but it makes sense in my head. Sometimes you gotta fight with them a little bit to get them turned around there. But you'll never see me put them together with them turned the other way. And then release the valve spring compressor. There you go. You know, because the head will be on the engine this way, so the oil runs down that way. And the final one. There we go. Like that, guess what? We've got a finished set of heads. And just like that, we got a finished cylinder head. I mean, upgraded valves, retainers, locks. You know, we reconditioned the valve seats, lapped the valves in, new valve stem seals. She's ready to roll. Not to mention, it'll breathe better. You know, now listen, I want to be honest with you. I'm not, what's his name, Joe, it ain't Montana. That's the quarterback for the San Francisco 69ers or whatever. Joe Mondello, which I think he's dead now. But anyway, I'm not Joe Mondello, okay? Never claimed to be. I'm just showing you what works for me. It works well, and it lasts a long time. If you want to do them different, go ahead. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you, but this works for me. But I hope this helps some of you. And stop what you're doing right now and hit the thumbs up. You know, it helps me out. You know, because the more comments, the more likes and stuff that I get, the more it moves it up in the algorithm. You know, so more people will see it, which means we can do more stuff. I can show you more things. You know, so just keep that in mind. And, you know, hey, comment. I like the comments. You may disagree with me. That's okay. Comment. But I would seriously appreciate each and every one of you that watched and supported me. And stay tuned. Me and the pups will be back with another one. And listen to more Goose Creek. See yous.